Welcome to Duncan Thorin Shield's YouTube channel. I managed to con Duncan into convincing his friend to pay me thousands and thousands of dollars as a professional Counter-Strike player, so maybe he can convince you that some of his analysis is correct.
When you were in Cloud9, I talked to Automatic about this period. He told me a very interesting answer. He said that the thing that impressed him about you was that he said before like a game, like a match, you could basically give him like the scouting report almost, but you hadn't actually watched the demos. It wasn't that you just like watched like 3 demos and you were like, right, to do this. He said it was more like, it seemed like you could just remember from playing teams, things like the tendencies or like on this map, this player's going to do this. Are you one of those people who has a memory like that? Like if you talk about a match, do you remember like the specific round and where people were? Well, do you have a mind like that? Is that what he's referring to?
I can remember like almost every round. Like if the match is sometime near, like how can I word this? Like if we played a match previously in like I don't know a week, then
right.
I might like remember the rounds. I might remember what's good, what's bad. Stuff like that, but like about opponents, I mostly remember like key things, like where is the gaps, where will they be bad at holding, what stacks might they be doing, the rotations, where does the ops usually go, if it does any early peaks, aggressions, like stuff like that. I might remember, but it's all about like tying it all together, because if you understand one thing about the team and you utilize that, and then you're gonna like understand where rotations are gonna happen as well after that. So I think that's one of my strengths. I didn't have great work ethic and like watching demos, studying every opponent, studying like how I should improve myself. I was just like remembering tendencies of teams and players and how can I use this against them, and then obviously you just build upon that. Where am I trying to go with this? Like you actually find a gap on something, and then you build off of that. Like,
oh, sure.
You break them down individually and like as a team, and then you understand that okay. You've started breaking the gap here, and like making them unsure about playing this position. Then you can start doing something else after that. So it's kind of like how I see the game, that you can now also break them down mentally and with confidence. Show them that they're weak somewhere, and then you go somewhere else after. It's like it's just a mental approach to me, and actually not so much tactically.
Right. Because this is one of the reasons I asked the question earlier about whether the role thing was specific to having like an awesome group of teammates. Because I'll give you this example. When I did my interview with Simple, because he's simple and he just lives in his own bubble of being simple, right? He had a part where he explained things like that, you know, when like in their team, when they were in that Na'Vi where Blade would give all those documents, you know, like an actual like fucking homework that they had in the match, where be like, turn to page 4, we're doing like, you know, whatever, like Anubis, T-side strats or whatever. Right, when he was doing that, right, Simple, because he's simple, was like, and you know, some people, like, you tell them what to do and then they can't do it. And I'm just looking at him like, yeah, they're not you, mate. Like, you are aware you are like an alien, Simple. Like, you're like insanely good at this game. Does flusha ever do that? Like, does flusha get that? Like, some of his teammates can't remember things like that, or they don't see the same things in the game, or they don't get the same feel for timings or intuitive mode. Does flusha understand that when he's someone's teammate, or do you ever expect more of your teammates in that sense?
I kind of I saw that video, so I kind of realized when I saw that okay, maybe my teammates doesn't understand the games and clutches the way I do it, which is still true to this day. I see like whenever I'm coaching eyeballers, I see like obvious situations for me, like where are the opponents? I know exactly where they are, but obviously my team. When I spectate my teammates, I see like okay, they don't know at all where they are. While I understand exactly what they're trying to do all the time. But yeah, it's super hard to. You can't really teach that because it's so obvious to me, and like logic's applied and everything. But yeah, what can I do? I can't just
Yeah, true.
tell my teammates that they're stupid. How didn't you understand this or not? It's like some people are better at understanding logic and thought process and where people should be, and some people are just good at crosshair placement and aiming and killing people. And
Yes.
I'm one of the first ones.
The joke is, Simple still did try to tell everyone they were an idiot and they didn't know. But that's because, again, we love him and he's simple. He's just his own person. It's all good. We're just mere mortals. Right? So then similarly, a question I have goes like this. No one ever actually notice ever brings this topic up. When you were in Cloud9, even though like I'm actually friends with Jack from Cloud9, so I actually know a lot of the story of like I remember every time he would tell me like the new update of like, yeah, this guy can't play this next event. I was like, did it? I remember telling him at one point, has this 5-man lineup ever played a fucking LAN together? It feels like there's the real lineup almost. I think when I looked it up, you'd played like 2 LANs with the real lineup or something. Because at one point it was obviously like Golden had to go and he had his issues. Then you obviously had to take time off because you had a family tragedy. And then you had the whole thing where it's like visas and then the 5th start, and it was all over the place. This lineup felt like it never really got like properly going. So the question I have is this, right? Understandably, because you had that family situation, that is when you left the team and eventually you came back to Europe and you joined FNATIC again. If that whole situation didn't happen, was there actually a world where you could have stayed in Cloud9? Would this project have like eventually come to be something good? Was the fact that the lineup never got going, was that putting you off anyway? Where were you at that time period? Because it's totally understandable, obviously, why that would be a big deal. But if it hadn't happened, were you really set on like, I'm just a Cloud9 player now, I'm going to be an international team for the rest of my career? Was that where you were at?
Not at all, actually. I have to start from the beginning of this history.
Yeah, do it.
So in 2018, after the FACEIT major, I guess.
Yes.
I just straight up told him like, this is working for me. I don't wanna play in this team. And like, I don't know if C9 had contacted me before, if I contacted them. But yeah, I was thinking like, I'll come play for you guys. You guys buy me out. I'll play for free until the Katowice major.
Okay. No salary. Okay.
Yeah, no salary, no nothing. I'll have a contract until then, and then after that I'm free. Because I had already started thinking like, I think it was before the major event, the FACEIT major, that I wanted to take a break and like not do anything for a few months. And obviously, after Katowice, that tragedy happened, so to say. But I had already planned on taking a break and actually like thinking about what I wanted to do. So it was kind of unfortunate timing in every aspect. But yeah, what was the initial question about C9?
Like, would you have stayed in the team, basically? Yeah. Do you think you would have just kept going?
I might have. I liked the team a lot. Obviously, we had a lot of problems. Barely played with the lineup together. Like, even when I joined C9, there was like, I thought everything was good, but then like first, second, third day, I don't know. I get the info that okay, Skadoodle doesn't want to play anymore, and I was like, shouldn't you have told me this before I joined? So already like in the first few days, I was like, okay, it starts now, and then it went on the entire time I was in C9. But just the players I played with during the C9 times, like all of them were great. Especially Automatic Rush, I bonded with a lot. Obviously, Golden I wanted to play with. He was the one who made me go to C9 in the start. And yeah, I mean, Keo was good to be around as well. We didn't connect very very well individually, but he was like me, a kind of a person that kept to himself. So, but yeah, I think I had a really great experience with C9 overall, and it might have happened. I'm not sure. I like the guys that were on the team when I left, and yeah, I think it was a great experience. I'm not sure if I would have stayed or not, or kept going. It's really hard to say when I kind of had to make a decision really really fast after Katowice.
By the way, I do actually want to ask, I'm obviously going to be very careful how I ask this to be sensitive, right? When this situation happened, if people don't know, in this scenario where you had this personal tragedy, it happened while you were at the major, right? You were at KRiMZ, and basically, I think it was even during like the Swiss system while you're still in the tournament, right? Like you just got this news that sadly you'd had like someone passed away, right? In this scenario, Flusha, I'll say it this way. Nobody, literally nobody would blame you if you said in that scenario, like, okay, I don't want to play the rest of the event, you know, like I just want some time, bring in a sub or, you know, just do whatever. Like, I don't want to. So in this scenario, what I would ask is this: how did you keep playing? Like, did you just make yourself do it? Did you take your mind off things? What was it like? Why play in that scenario?
I mean, there's nothing else I can do. Like, why would it matter if I went home? Like, it wouldn't matter. It's already happened. I can't do anything. So I think that was mainly like my thought process. And obviously, as I've said before, like when I play offline events and I play matches, I have my everything is focused on that. Like nothing comes into that bubble when I play. So kind of a thing to get my mind off of other things than just play CS, you know. So I guess it was kind of an easy decision for me to do, because I felt like, okay, it doesn't matter if I go home or not. It really doesn't. Something that's kind of dark but kind of funny with this situation is that it happened after Astralis 16 owed us.
Oh, fucking hell! Okay.
But yeah,
okay.
I didn't get to know until the morning after. So, but yeah, that's something I thought after, like sometime after, I was like, okay, that's kind of funny in a way.
Sure. By the way, are you someone where along these lines, it sounds like, I mean, I've heard like sometimes sportsmen sometimes say this. Sometimes they say, actually, even though people think the stress is all playing the game, they say the joke is actually the stress is outside of the game. It's like what people think of you, what the result was. They say something, they say actually being in the games where it's very comfortable. Like, that's kind of like it's where you used to be in, right? It's home in a way, right?
Yeah, obviously, that's the one thing that you actually know that you are. That's the best thing you do in the world. So if you're stressed about playing, then it's probably not for you, because you should be fully confident. You should be calm. You should realize that this is where you're supposed to be in the world, because you've been practicing for this your entire life. And I think there's anything else I would be as calm in as playing CS on a big stage. So that's basically my mindset on it. I think also realizing now when I watch Eyeballers play, it's very stressful looking at games than actually playing in them.
Oh, so the joke is it's more stressful for you to watch like an online BO1 than it is to be like the major final yourself playing, right?
Yeah, because then I know that it's all in my hands. It's no one else that I have to rely on.
Sure. By the way, here's another question people don't ask. What did you do after the Cloud9 period? Like you had something like what, 5 or 6 months where you just didn't play CS? Were you just doing nothing at all? Did you touch the keyboard? Did you go away completely? What did you do?
No, obviously I touched the keyboard a lot. I just wasn't playing much CS. I tried. I think after 1 or 2 months, I tried like playing a bit. I was like, it's not that fun. It's not that fun yet. So I kind of stayed away a few more months. I think me and my girlfriend was taking the summer, doing stuff, because I mean, I've never had a free summer in 10 years, except for that one. So I think just enjoying life pretty much, and also staying away from the computer, not sitting there like every hour of the day. Obviously, I also lost a lot of weight during that time, which I regained after starting playing again, which is, I think, one of the hazards of being a pro player.
Sure.
So that's basically what I was doing, trying to live healthy and not focus too much on the game, and sitting in front of a computer all day. So yeah, that's it.
Because when you came back, like, dude, this is like some out of a movie. You come back, you join FNATIC. The first event is in Sweden. It's Dreamhack Malmo, and you guys fucking win the event. Like, that's like I say, that's like something that doesn't even seem plausible. How did this happen? Like, for example, when you joined the team, was the team good? Like, would you think you were going to win this event? Or did it all just click immediately? What happened?
No, I think we had like no expectations on ourselves at all. Especially me, I kind of came in with like a super positive attitude. Like I've never been the positive guy on a team, but somehow I started being that, and I think that helped out everyone else. But I also went into the team thinking, or like playing as a guy that's just there to help everyone else out. Because I knew Brollan was the main star, or he was supposed to be the main star. And obviously after that, I don't know, KRiMZ stepped up super much. Like he took a big role and became like kind of a star player for us, which was kind of unexpected, I would say. But I think we played like 2 weeks before that event. We had a boot camp in London at the FNATIC offices, and just got together as a group, spent a lot of time together. I didn't know Brollan before that, and I kind of had to learn to know him fairly quickly. Obviously, there was a big age gap between him and the rest of us, so I think we were all kind of like there, acting he was our younger brother, and I think we were like making him comfortable in any way we could. So I think just as a group, we just came together very quickly, and we kind of realized what we had been missing, because me, JW, KRiMZ has always had like the best connection between the three of us. So it all just came together somehow. Yeah, I don't even think we were playing that well on in the matches actually, but we were just so believing in ourselves so much, and actually had the crowd in our favor for one of the only times in our career, I would say. So it was a like fairy tale ending, I guess, or fairy tale start, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really unexpected. We didn't put any pressure on ourselves. We were just taking it as it came, and obviously, I think we started out I think
you lost to ENCE at the beginning of the tournament in the BO1, yeah.
Yeah, we lost them on Mirage. We were like, okay, it doesn't matter. We have a best of 3 coming up, and then I don't know. We just started rolling somehow and won the whole event. Can't remember much from it. We somehow won Nuke over Astralis, which was unheard of, I think. And yeah, that's pretty much my can't even find words, but yeah, that's how it was for me.
Yeah, it's your side of the story, sure. Like, what I would say is this, I'll put it this way, Flusha. When you said earlier that comment about the 2018 FNATIC, where it was like me, KRiMZ, and JW were sort of like, well, it's obviously not us at the problem because we're legends and we've won all the majors. So basically, whoever's left, bad luck, it's going to be your fault, right? In a way, that might sound super BM to like fans now, but I will say, like, it's not just your team. Almost every great team that won the majors did that, mate. Like, people know Nip's obviously the most famous one because they used to just have the one spot. They used to just cycle and just fire that guy over and over again. But the same thing in all the other teams. You ever look at SK Gaming, the Brazilians, they did the same thing, 5th spot. What I would say is this, Flusha, even though it might sound like you said delusional when someone thinks like we could still be the best even though you were maybe the best like 2 years earlier or 3 years earlier. The difference is though, like the match you're describing, when you come back, you make a team again with some of those players, you play like Astralis, who remember just won the major, like the #1 team in the world, and you win the game. It's wins like that make people who are legends think like, hey, we still got it though. Like, hey, if we put us in the game, like, because I've noticed the problem is people understand they're not as good overall. Like, they know if they play every single game, they're not going to win like they did in 2015. But when you play the big match, part of you still thinks we can roll back the years, right? We still are the same people in some sense, right?
I mean, yeah, obviously. I think that's kind of an issue that we had like in the end of 2019. We were like starting out, we were like, okay, no expectations, and then we go to top 4 every event, and we were like, okay, we're actually good. We we're gonna and we started, or at least I did start expecting us to like be good every event, like maybe even start winning, and then kind of my negative side came out again, and I was starting to be like less of that positive guy that I tried to be from the start of
When you say that,
2019 lineup.
does that mean like you just weren't positive, or does it actually mean like, for example, does flusha complain in the round if people lose it or they fuck it up or they lose to an does flusha complain in this scenario?
I wouldn't describe it as complaining. I would say like I'm the bad guy of the team. I've always been the bad guy of
Right.
any of the Fnatic lineups, and I was the one who was. If I thought it was shit, I would be the one who was bringing it up. Obviously, you don't want to hear that, but I think someone has to be the guy that's gonna.
Yes.
Sometimes it was warranted if you'd say it like that. Sometimes it might not have been. But I was always the one who was bringing up any issues, and obviously sometimes it went too far, and I might have gotten into arguments with KRiMZ and JW, but I think it all helped us in the end. But yeah, I think the team was kind of tired of me being so negative. That's probably one of the reasons why they had thoughts of kicking me at points. But I think they also realized that it's something that's needed, but you don't want to hear it, but you need to hear it.
Because I actually looked it up, and yeah, basically, if people don't know, in this time period when you came back to Fnatic for Dreamhack Malmo, I think it was something, there was 5 lands, and in all 5 lands, you were at least top 4. You were in the final on something like 4 of them or something ridiculous. And obviously, you won the Malmo one. Like, here's the funny thing though, flusha. In a way, like, this is why it is a bit delusional to think that way, but I also get why players think that way. Like, in this case, for example, we can never know, because obviously this story ends with KRiMZ, which is the event that didn't have a crowd because we all had to go online. That was the last LAN. Like, technically, we'll never know what that Fnatic lineup could have done. Like, it was a fucking good line. Like the obvious thing I think of, flusha, is if the world hadn't gone online, we were going to have a major in that spring. It was coming up. Like, in theory, that would be, your team would have been in good position to maybe make a run at this major, right?
Yeah, I think we were doing so good up until that Katowice major, and we were like, okay, we were playing Katowice in front of, or we were sitting in the stage, on the stage in the arena, and there's no people in the crowd. It's like it's such a bizarre situation, because you've been here, I don't know, 5-6 years in a row, and it's like it's been full every time, and now you're sitting there. There's no people. You sit like there's all the people in the crowd, and you're like, okay, this is weird. And obviously after that, it all went online, and it's just crushed any motivation you had, and any like everything that was fun about practicing, and like what the goal was with practicing and playing so much. It's like you take that away, and then you're all just, everyone's just sitting at home talking to each other over the TeamSpeak or Discord or whatever you're using. It's like it's so soul crushing, I would say.
Right, being as this time period was obviously when Astralis came and won all the majors with the Magic lineup and had all that success when you were in Fnatic Cloud9 and then back to Fnatic again. Right, when they came along, were you actually someone who, like, could you just say they are the best? Did you acknowledge it? Were you like, okay, we got to give it up, they are the best? Because it's obviously a very different style of CS to the style you played. What did you think when they came along and they won everything?
I don't know. I don't think I ever recognized like any team as the best. Obviously, they are one of the better teams. I would say. I like, in my mind, I never think of like any team that as the best, and it's gonna be super hard to beat them. I just go into any game like, okay, we're playing against these guys. They're kind of good. If we play our game, we have a chance. Like that's how I think. I think that's the mindset you should have going into any game, because if you think that there's a team that's like best by far, then you're not going into a game thinking that you're gonna win. So that's how I thought about it, and I've never like really wanted to like actually say out loud that, oh, these guys are the best for sure, because then you actually recognize them as that, and then you might start thinking other things in your head as well.
Sure. Right. By the way, when you mentioned earlier about Brollan coming into the team, I actually did want to ask you a question about that, because I just did an interview recently with Config, who obviously played with him when he was in NIP. And he told me something very interesting, dude, which I kind of confirmed my suspicions. So to the outsiders, they all think Brollan was a player who, like, he just had this rise in FNATIC. He looked really awesome. His stats were good. He was HLTV top 20. But then the online period came, he switched teams, and then they think he just, like, wasn't as good a player. But when I was talking to Config, dude, what he told me was basically that Brollan was sort of the player in their team because they had massive role clashes with all those like aggressive riflers. He made it sound like he was just a guy who didn't have the personality to be like, hey, give me this, this, and this. And so he was kind of the one who just, like, the game musical chairs. He's the one who just got left without the chair. He just chilled back, and then the others all fought for the roles, and he just did whatever was left. And so as a result, his game went down. And he didn't look that great. When he was in your team, obviously he was the youngster. Like the rest of the team were all legendary players, and then Golden's the IGL. Was it the case that you guys were actively like giving him like resources and trying to set him up to be a star in this team?
Yeah, I think that's kind of our main focus with playing with him. Like we gave him everything. Like whenever there was an SG on the ground, obviously it was the SG meta. We were like, okay, Brollan, I have something for you.
Sure.
So like every time we tried to make him comfortable, like swinging ahead of him, making him get the easy duels, setting him up in any situation. That was like our main focus. I think that's also one of the reasons maybe why he didn't do as great in NIP and FNATIC after it was international. It's like I think he's one of those guys that's gonna like take on any role because the team needs him to, or no one else wants to do it. So he's gonna be the one that's taking it. So he's kind of selfless like that. Yes. But I think we understood it in the team with him, and we kind of forced him to do what he was good at in a way. I don't know if he realized it or not, but we tried to actually make him like be the same star player. I think that's something that he's gotten back to in Mouse, that he actually gets to have the confidence from other people in him, and them showing him that he's a really important player in the team, and he needs to perform, and he gets what he wants most of the times. But yeah, I always thought he was one of the best players, especially in CS2. I played some pugs with him. I saw like how good he was. So I kind of understood that there was something that wasn't right with NIP because I saw how good he was actually. So I always believed in him becoming great in CS2. And I think as soon as he got out of NIP jail, then he's starting to show. I think Mouse is going to become a really good team in the near future as well.
Right. At the time this FNATIC team had all those top fours was obviously when Vitality with ZywOo was popping off and they were getting big results. You obviously even played them in this Malmo final. And I went and looked this up. Everyone remembers this, the first year ZywOo was like the proper pro and he won the HLTV #1. I even looked, and even in this Malmo final where you guys beat him, he still was like plus 22 over the fucking series. So like, what was it like to play against this guy?
I think ZywOo is like the greatest player I've played against in the past few years. Very annoying guy to play against. Does play any guns well. He positions really well. He understands the game extremely well, which is probably the least.
I mean, it's kind of underrated, right? People are just talking about his skills usually, right?
I mean, if you look at, I don't want to say device or simple is bad at it, but I think ZywOo is like so much better at understanding the game than them. So that's kind of annoying. I think he's also he has a really good IGL in Apex that's giving him a lot. So, but yeah, I think ZywOo is probably was the best CSGO player in the end of the CSGO, and then also in CS2 as well. But yeah, I think he was super good. But I think Vitality didn't have the other pieces.
Oh, sure.
Much. So ZywOo was like, he was the team pretty much. I'm not trying to shit on other people,
sure.
but he was the only one that was stopping us.
By the way, as people will have noticed in this interview, part of actually how you competitively think about the game is, like you say, you intentionally don't like heap praise on whoever's number one or whatever, or think, oh my God, they're unbeatable, because like you say, it's going to put you in a bad position. So as people will have noticed, you're not really one of those people who thinks of like, this is the star player of the scene, and then this is the best player, then this guy. So the question obviously is then, everyone else, like the consensus is everyone's agreed. I mean, ESL even gave him that bloody award, that like Simple's supposed to be the greatest CSGO player ever, even had that like player of the decade and all that shit. Right, for you, are people overhyping players like that? Like for you, when you played Prime Simple, was he insane? Was he different to other players?
He was different. Obviously, he was better than most pros, but obviously pros are very close to each other. It doesn't help that he's opping. Like any opper, automatically it feels like they're better because they're using the op. So if you become really good with op, then you're overpowered from the start. So, but obviously, I think Simple is the GOAT in CS:GO. If you take in all the factors like wins, stats, how long he's been playing, like everything, then he's obviously the GOAT. I just think that ZywOo was better in the past few years.
Yeah, fair play. By the way, another one from the back in the day I wanted to ask about was just, funnily enough, it's tied to Simple. Obviously, part of Simple's rise was that amazing run when he stood in for Team Liquid at that Cologne tournament where he beat Na'Vi and then you guys, then they lost to SK in the final. I've always said this, Flusha, and all you need to know is this, all the Brazilians agree with me. They actually, even though they got to actually have a very easy final, because FNATIC Team Liquid was kind of shit in the final, if you remember, and they looked, quite frankly, like they were amazed they were even second place, and they just kind of gave the trophy over. But I know all those Brazilians tell me, Flusha, they wished it was FNATIC, because at the time, remember, there was that stat that they'd never beaten FNATIC on LAN. You guys had always beaten them in the important matches, right? Even though at the time, because they won that major, everyone seems the SK era. And I want to know, what do you think would have happened if it had actually been FNATIC versus SK in the final of that major? What do you think would happen? Like, did you guys feel like you had an edge over them, or you have a psychological, it felt like you won the psychological war against them or something because they never beat you,
Yeah, I think we definitely beat them psychologically, but I don't know the only thing I can remember from that event is the fucking Simple 1v2.
Sure.
I don't even know how we lost to Liquid because I felt like we were so much better.
Sure, yes.
So if we actually won that, I don't know, we might have won the final, but it would have been a great game at least. But I'm still salty about that.
By the way, what was the reaction in FNATIC when he did that? Because I've always thought, dude, it's bad enough when you see the POV. If you're not seeing the POV, it must be like, what the fuck? How did he kill him? Like, it must have looked insane on your screen.
I mean, yeah, like in my mind, I was like, KRiMZ, how the fuck didn't you trade that?
Sure, yes.
But then, like, obviously, you can't say that to him. You're
Sure.
like, okay, let's go the next round. But then, when you actually see what happened, then you're like, okay, it's not on you. It's only it's only on him.
Yes.
Couldn't have done much there. So, yeah, it's just sad for us that happened. But I guess a great moment for CS and a great moment for Simple.
Sure. By the way, how would you explain, because obviously when we had the online period, that's not that interesting. Like, the problem is the FNATIC team was one of the ones that had started amazing because you won the Pro League, and then everything just went downhill and it all just... And then obviously eventually you left, right? And people will remember, I hope, there was this weird period where you left and you were going to make your own team, and it was going to be this one that was the GORILLAZ project. But then what's weird is, by the time the team became a team, you were already gone, and like other people like Sonny and them were taken over, and like eventually like, it was obviously completely different players. Like, what happened with that original project? Like, was part of it based on things like the idea of like maybe COVID went away faster and you could go back to lands or something? What was the concept? Because if everyone goes and looks, the actual players you initially had were actually all players I feel like were in the same position. They're all like good LAN players, but who are on kind of teams that are a bit whack or they're falling off, and then it's almost like if we get back to LAN, this could be a real team. What was the concept of this project?
I mean, basically it was me, Sonny, and Automatic was kind of on board in start. We were actually funded from the start. Like all the time we were playing, we got salaried. So it was just they were trying to build what became Titans in the end, way faster than it happened. But yeah, I think we just had like player issue on player issue on player issue. So like some things were obviously out of our hands. Some people got issues outside the CS world that made us have to replace them. Some just didn't want to sign a contract. Some, like, there was different reasons for all of them. And I think obviously we never got going. And then on top of it all, I think me and Sunny just viewed the games super differently, and that made us not the team not work out in the end. Like, obviously we tried super hard for a long time, but the issues were there from basically the first month until the end. And then in the end, I was like, I told the owner and like the guy who was funding it all, like, it's either him or me. We can't both be on this team because it's impossible to make it work. So I think we tried very hard, but it's also like these international teams is hard to make work, especially if you don't have a really strong leader, which I've realized that I won't bring a international team together. I'm not that kind of a leader. So we had a lot of different problems. I think the strengths we have was we had good players, we had a really good coach, but it was just impossible to build with the personalities we had, I think. And in the end, there was too many player swaps and players not willing to sign contracts, or problems outside the game, or like kind of a shit show. But in the end, it's just a wasted year.
Right, people might know that when you made this project, it wasn't initially Eyeballers, but obviously it was the core of the players that became Eyeballers later. When you've done this project that's all Swedish, was the real vision, even from the beginning, like this is only going to be a Swedish team, it's about getting Swedish CS back? Was that the original plan, or did that just develop along the way?
With Eyeballers, you mean?
Yeah.
It was always Swedish. Like me and JW was talking about this few years before we even started. Like we kind of started getting into this mindset that what are we actually doing at FNATIC? Because the only thing we're actually doing is just getting paid a salary, and we're not actually doing anything for ourselves. And we wanted to be like,
as in like building something and being a part, like something more than just playing the game, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I mean, we aren't building long term. We're just in the short term making salary, maybe winning tournaments. But in the end, like after this, what have we actually gained from playing on FNATIC? Which is nothing, pretty much. Because if you actually look at it, like we built FNATIC's CSGO division, like
sure.
their whole what FNATIC is today, we built. They didn't maybe build us as much as we built them. So I'm not hating on FNATIC or anything, but it's just how I think I see it. Maybe JW sees it like that as well. But in the end, it was just like, okay, if we have our following, like we have a lot of people that are supporting us and fans of us, we can actually bring this together and like create something on our own. And then also the Swedish scene is struggling a lot. We kind of feel like we know what the issues are, and we know that we have the capability to teach the younger people how to play CS and how to think and everything. So basically that was it. Me and JW set out on this path to bring it all back, and obviously we acquired the rights to Eyeballers name as well, which has big history within the Swedish esports, not only in CS but in Quake as well. Sure. So that's kind of the start of it, and what our vision is.
Right. If people don't know, you guys actually played in this team like quite a long time. You basically played for like almost 2 years together. trying different lineups, getting it to work, etc. Right? What was one thing I would ask initially is this: is even though you did it expressly with the idea of the project's going to be Swedish and we're bringing back the scene, so I understand you have to go down a bit. Is it a bit humbling? Is it hard to go down to a low level, or to like never get to go to lands and just be in those online qualifier after qualifier? Is it hard if you're used to the success you're used to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was different for me and JW because I already spent a year with GORILLAZ. But yeah, obviously you don't want to go down and play on a lower level, especially like if you're grinding on a lower level only online. It's very, very hard to do when you're used to playing big matches offline, traveling to places. Now it's like 99% of everything you play is online, so it's a big change to do. You actually, it's hard to do in a way, but it's also like you play against lower tier players, and you should be winning most games. But it also makes the losses even harder to face. So there is both good and bad things about it, but I think mostly bad things when it's taken so long to actually get higher ranking and everything, and it's also a struggle to actually acquire points, so to say, to get invited to better events and stuff, even though you might feel like you can actually beat some of these tier 2 teams and maybe slightly better teams as well.
It's obviously only technically been a few months since you said officially that you retired and you stopped playing, right? The obvious question I have is this, flusha. Like, I know one of the reasons why a lot of sports stars sometimes do a comeback, even if they do a retirement or they have like a year off, is because I've heard the problem is when you sort of realize, like, well, I don't have the choice to do this forever. Like, I've only got a couple more chances. So I've got this year now, I could do it. A lot of people feel like, oh, I've got to do one last score. Maybe there's some more in me. Are you really 100% done? Have you ever thought to yourself, maybe I have to come back in 6 months or maybe in a year, the team needs me and does part of you ever think that? Have you totally closed that door in your mind?
Obviously not. Like, obviously I'm still working with eyeballers. If there was any issue ever, I would be there in like 1 second. So I've already stood in for the team twice. Might even played some practice games. Like, if any players have issues, I'll be there, of course. But I'm not really trying to come back. I think I could still play on a decent level, but it's like, for me, I'm not gonna have fun. I'm not gonna have motivation to sit and grind on this online level CS. Like, everything I play for is to actually play on these big events, big stages, these important matches, so to say. And there aren't a lot of those at the level we are at the moment.
Because that was the other thing I was going to ask. I can understand on an individual level why you might just say, like, right, it's time for me to stop playing. But I imagine a hard aspect must be that in your team, especially because the idea of the project is bring Swedish CS back, it's hard to take yourself out of the team when you're essentially, like you say, you're exactly the sort of player these young guys need. Like, there's loads of people with aim in Swedish CS. There's young players that are up and coming. But the thing that we lack is, like, experienced IGLs. It's like, it's people like you or an exist or a threat or so, but still playing, right? It's kind of, it must be hard to take yourself out in that sense, because it's you kind of essential to the project, some would say.
Yeah, it was kind of hard, I have to say, but it's also like we have when we got the replacement, it was like, okay, this is the player that plays kind of my role, so we could switch around like that. And obviously I was there to help out if needed, like as a coach. Obviously, I would see them. I would like to see them improve without me, but if it's needed, I'll always be there to help. But I think also, yeah, leadership is, as I've said before, it's the big issue with the Swedish scene, and I think I have leadership qualities, but I don't think I have it for what we need. I think I can probably teach a lot of top tier players different things, but for me to learn or to teach these lower level basic things is kind of, I don't understand how to do it
right.
in a good way, I would say.
Right, being as in your career, you had a lot of success. Like I wrote this down, I looked year on year on year. So in 2013, you guys won the major and got going. In 2014, you were winning a bunch of lands. You were number one before, obviously, the Olof boost. Like, by the way, spoiler, I don't give a fuck. I even told NBK and all my mates, you didn't win that major, you lost the match. Like, I told them, bro, to win a major, you don't have to lose the best of them. Anyway, I'm getting into some of that. So obviously, you could have been number one in 2014. 2015, you guys were the best. You had the era. 2016, you win all those lands with Dennis. You skip forwards 2018, you had the KRiMZ run in the WSG, like we say. 2019, you came back, you had Malmo. Like, the joke is, like, look how many years you're, like, winning big tournaments or you're in, like, the biggest possible events. Like, when you look back over your career, was it satisfying enough? Do you feel like you did what you need to? Did you satisfy the hunger to win, the drive and all that stuff? Does it feel like it was a good enough career for you?
Yeah, I think it was a great career. Obviously, there was moments where when I look back at it, I should have done different. Maybe different decisions, maybe stuck to a team, maybe not done this, not done that. Like, there is some regrets, obviously, but overall, it's a way better career than most people have, or most pro players, sports players, or professionals in any kind of environment. I think I've shown the most of what I've done or could have done. But you always want more, I think. As a true professional, you wish you could have done some more. But it is what it is. I've done what I've done, and then can't do much more now. It's with eyeballs now, or might even as a coach in the future. We'll see.
By the way, what would you pick since you teased it there, like you had some regret? What would be the number one? What would be like if we get a time machine now, we could change something? What would be the best thing you could have changed, or what would have been interesting to change? Do you think?
I think just for me as an individual, I think not trying to be agile.
Right.
Like I feel like I could have had great stats, so to say, over the years, like up until if I didn't do all these team changes as well, if I stuck to my role, kind of did like what KRiMZ has been doing,
right.
Then I don't know, I could have like averaged a really high rating all the time.
Sure.
But obviously that's not who I was. I was always trying to do more and do better, and whatever I could do to help the team, I was trying to do. And maybe it didn't work out for me very well. And I wish I could have seen what would have happened if I stuck to what I did best all the time.
When you said earlier, like when you were talking about the players in FNATIC that won all the majors, like we were all legends. That's one thing I always find really kind of like trippy about esports is like the joke is, even though everyone who gets older always says like time's gone so quick, it's like I don't think it's like it feels like it goes quick in the moment, but it's when you look back it feels like what the fuck. Like when I remember that like E-League was like 8 years ago now, that seems like what? Like not surely it was only like 3 years ago, you know, like it wasn't that long ago. So the question I would ask is this: like I said, if you look at your resume, look how long you played and all the things you did, you actually are in the legendary category now. Like when you first started in CSGO, all the fans would say things like, oh, you know, like I mean, he's backing out Valle or fucking Vilden or Sport, or these are like the Heaton Pot. These are the legends of Swedish Counter-Strike. Does it feel weird that you're in that group? Like, if we make like a Hall of Fame of Swedish eSport, you'd be in there.
I mean, at the moment, I'm starting to realize that I'm probably a legend. Like, people are acting differently around me. Like, I'm trying to speak to people normally, and they're like, might be
they're a bit starstruck.
Yeah, like giving me some more respect than maybe I don't think I should have.
Right. Okay.
It's just things like that, and I guess I'm considered a legend. But if you asked me like a couple of years ago, I would be like, no, it's why should I be a legend? I've only been playing CS. It's not a hard thing to do. It's just something I was good at. So yeah, I don't have a really high what's it called, perception of myself in that regards. I'm just me, and I'm trying to do what I want to do.
Right, in esports, obviously, I will tell casual fans, nearly everyone is a nerd, guys. We are all playing video games and like grinding one specific tag FPS for way too many hours. So like most people aren't really like celebrity rock stars, etc. But I will say, if I was going to pick like the great teams of all time to go party with to win the event flusher, obviously I would pick like, you know, FaZe with Nico, like the Brazilians with Fallen and Cold. Like, if people don't know that the joke is some inside baseball, if you know the stories, these are definitely the teams like that were the rock and roll teams, right? The perception of your team, dude, was like you were never at the after parties. You guys were like the boring sweets who were just fucking, I don't know, chill in the hotel room and go to bed or something. Like, I mean, half the memes, like that one with fucking, what was his name? Oh, fuck, I can't remember his name now. Who was the coach of the team who did that picture where you were reading the fucking DuckTales book? Who am I talking about there? Who's the coach? Vogo, yes. Like, the joke is half the stuff was all memes that you were all nerds. What I want to ask is this: is it true? Was the FNATIC team kind of nerdy and people just, you know, did their own shit and went to bed? Did you ever have any wild party stories? Did you guys ever do anything fun when you won a big event or a major or something? Did you ever do anything crazy?
In the earlier years, we didn't do much. Like 2013 to 2016, I think we didn't do much. But after that, we started actually going to parties and after parties, having drinks and stuff. But like in the early years, we were just like buying a lot of snacks, not the player, the candy and stuff. And we just watched movies and like hung out in a hotel room.
What sort of movies? Like action movie or something? What sort of thing would you put on?
I like stupid movies. Didn't like make sense. Just to have a laugh, pretty much. And yeah, we were doing our own thing. But in the last later years, I think we were starting to go to parties and stuff. But yeah, I think we're kind of reserved people.
Sure.
So I don't think a lot of people or teams, players got to know us very, very well. But those who did, I think, has no issues with us at all.
Sure.
It's just hard to get to know us. As Swedes, I think it's in particular, it's not easy.
I do know from actually having some friends who are Finnish that it is a weird thing about the Nordic countries that you all just get that subscription when you're a kid to like Donald Duck comic book, and then you all just get. The joke is, if people don't know, it's the comic you read when you're on the toilet is the joke, I was told. Like everyone has it, you just keep the subscription going, and it's kind of reminds you of your child. Were you trolling? Do you actually read Donald Duck comic books?
I mean that was actually his comic book, and I think he was actually reading those.
It was a good meme. I have to say, it was a bag of meme when he put that picture up.
But I think also this is kind of true. I didn't realize it, but I actually had Donald Duck comics like back in, I don't know, it might have been 15 years or younger.
Sure.
That's when I had them, but I've never really thought about it. I was like, I didn't realize it was a Swedish thing, but now when you say it, it might have been like a big Swedish thing, actually.
Yes. Right, at the end of this interview, Flusha, do you have a final message for people? Do you want to thank anyone or say hello to anyone?
Not really. Just I hope people will support eyeballers. I hope we're gonna be around for a long time, and hopefully we'll save Swedish CS because everyone else is leaving. And I hope we will do it, and I hope people will be there on the journey with us.
Tack så mycket.
Tack själv.
Events come and go, fame rises and then falls away. You have a job, you lose a job. You do one thing, you have to move on to another. But one of the cool things about my career is I have my own support network who's always got my back. So I always know I can rely on the support to do the work I want to do and talk the way I want to talk and not have to follow certain rules that others arbitrarily have to follow. And that support group is, of course, called the Skrilluminati, my Patreon community. This video and all the others on my channel was kindly supported by Matt Pugnaccio Rakula, Frisky, Ahmed Haju, Tobias Bernasconi, Toucan, Tosh, Jensen Gore, Animosity, and you know it, always my main man Jerky's minion, rocking with me, ride or die. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for a future episode of Reflections or a talk show? Do you want teasers? Find out who the upcoming guests are? Maybe you want to ask me a question for my video AMA where I tend to go quite in depth, or perhaps you want to take part in one of those really long donated discussions where we talk about whatever you're into in esports. Well, if any of those perks or any of the others catch your fancy, join the Skilluminati today via the Patreon link in the description box where? Down below.